What's going on, everybody? Doc, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again. More Escape from Tarkov, and another Teaching Tarkov episode. For this one, we're jumping into Woods. We're going to do a Woods map guide. Hopefully this is helpful for you. Again, these are totally intended for newer players or players that maybe haven't been around to Tarkov for a little while. So check it out if you're looking for some information. Here's what we're going to cover in this one, and it's going to flash across your screen all cool like. We're going to do a map overview. We're going to talk POIs. We're going to talk extracts. We're going to talk boss locations. In addition, we're also going to spend some time talking about Scav locations. There are quite a few tasks that are required, that require a lot of Scavs on Woods. So we're going to certainly try to focus on that. In addition, we're going to talk about old Shturmy, Mr. Shturman, the Shturminator. We're going to talk about the Scav boss and the minions. Talk about some tactics, probably show a little bit of gameplay of hopefully hunting them down, and just give some tips on hopefully being successful in that encounter. Lastly, we'll cover keys. We'll also touch on very briefly quests as well. Not going to go super in depth because there are a lot for Woods, but we'll cover some general highlights. There's not a lot of keys to cover, but we'll certainly chat about those as well. So hopefully, again, this is helpful for you. Let's jump into some Woods. All right, so as we jump in, let's first do a quick map overview, and let's talk about Woods as a map, as well as the new expansion that has certainly added some depth and actually a lot of playability to this map. Woods is certainly a map that a lot of players are going to jump into pretty early in their Tarkov journey, mostly focused around the fact that there are a lot of early game quests that also take place on Woods. I will tell you that my personal opinion is Woods used to not be one of my top tier maps that I enjoyed, and I will tell you the expansion has certainly made this map both more enjoyable as well as more profitable in many different aspects, both from being able to pick up gear, barter items, just the general sense of being able to make money. And I also feel like while it has spread the map out, that has made some of the engagements a little bit more interesting, a little bit more fun. So I'm going to say that probably one of the first early things to recognize is that from Mechanic, you're going to get a quest called Introduction, and this is going to be your opening to Jaeger. Now, Jaeger is the primary quest giver for Woods, while there are certainly others that take place, and we'll touch on quests here in a little bit. I want to focus on and tell you that you should be focused to get that Introduction quest done. Get Jaeger opened up very quickly. His task, Mechanic's task to get that is pretty easy and can be completed very, very early. So just strong recommendation before we get into the map overview. If you are just getting into your Tarkov journey, go check out Mechanic. Make sure you accept that quest. Get to Woods, relatively quickly, and try to get that quest complete. You will certainly benefit from that in the long run. So let's talk about the map as an overview. And let's talk about some key points here. Woods is probably going to be one of the more confusing maps, and still can be even for more veteran players, until you really get a good grasp for spawns, until you really get a good grasp for just your points of interest and the things that you should be focused on. Generally, the map plays where it used to be you could get spawned very close to a lot of players. They have certainly spread this out, which is nice, but there are still some close spawns that you want to pay attention to. So just an initial thing as you jump into Woods, just make sure you're checking your surroundings, check your left and right. Again, as you learn the map, you'll learn where you're a little bit safer and where a lot of it's coming from. In general, though, your spawns are going to be scattered kind of across the outer edges of the map. There's a couple of key points of interest that I want to focus on, and we'll start talking. The big one is going to first be this giant lake that's in the middle. This is a great point of interest. This is a great kind of landmark to use in order to kind of centralize yourself and just get your bearings on the map. It is located at the southern portion. You can see it from a large portion of the map, especially if you can get a little bit of height, and is again a very good key indicator. Directly north of that lake, which we've zoomed in here a little bit, is going to be your sawmill. Okay, this is pretty easily identifiable by a couple of large red barned buildings. This one right here is closed off. These two are both open. In addition, you're going to have a couple of cabins here, and you have a couple other. You have one other little structure a lot of wood piles. You're going to have this kind of road here that's going to have some trucks that are broken down. This is another, again, very good point of interest. This is also going to be one of the biggest areas of basically PMC interaction. The large reason for that is basically because Shturman will spawn in and around in the surrounding area to the sawmill. This is the only place that he will spawn, and as of recent changes, he has more spawn locations, but still generally focuses in and is around the sawmill. Again, high traffic area, going to be, especially as players filter into the map, many players are going to be moving towards this direction. There are a couple of quests that are located in some small cabins right here. And again, for those hunting Shturman, this is where they're going to be, and they're going to focus a lot of their attention. Scav House, I point out as just another good point of interest. There are quite a few spawns. Spawns you can see designated by these small little yellow triangles here. I got to give a quick shout out as I jump into this. Escape from Tarkov wiki. Go check it out. Link in the description. This is where we're getting these maps from. So this is a great map, woods in general, to have up on another monitor if you have one. Maybe pull it up on your phone, especially as you jump in, just to help get your bearings a little bit. But Scav House is another really good key indicator. It's a really crappy little shack. Sits kind of up on a hill, surrounded by just a forest, and has this really shitty little fence around it. But it is a great location, especially as you get your bearings for any of your spawns over here in this kind of southwestern portion of the map. ZB14, there are 2 bunkers on woods. Both are going to be quest related and quest locations. And ZB14 is also an extract, optional extract. It's only open at certain times, but it is a great one for being able to get out of the map. It also has some really good loot inside of it. ZB16 over here is the other bunker that you're going to be able to drop down into, and that is a quest location as well. So really permeating the majority of the map, and probably where I should have started is you have this really, really giant, basically mountain here. You can see it's designated. There's a mountain stash. This used to be an extract, actually, and this is a really key location. The easiest way on woods to get your bearing is to basically orient to this large mountain. It's huge. It's got a huge spire on the top of it. It's very hard to miss. You can see it from very, very many locations on the map. I think what confuses players, or can easily help to confuse players, though, is spawning on which side of it. The other key feature that I want to talk about, there's really 2. Or there's quite a few more than 2. But I'll hit on a couple of them. One, the section and body of lakes. There are a couple of spawn locations you can see over here. This body of lakes is another good key indicator. If you see these small little ponds, little lake areas, this is really going to help orient you to understand that, okay, if I want to get to Sawmill, I generally have to head kind of to the south. I have to generally kind of head towards this large rock mountain spire, and I should, at some point, if I kind of keep that to my left-hand side, we'll be able to run into the Sawmill and probably a little bit more, little bit better location as far as being able to find where you are on the map. For those that are not familiar, basically woods, the addition of woods added quite a bit, and probably added about 40 additional percent to the map, if not more. So generally it was kind of cut off here. This mountain spire was kind of the end. It ran kind of across this road. This was generally, if you kind of do a little bit of like a half U shape here, is what this additional portion was all added. So it certainly has added a lot to the map. So I highlight this little section of lakes. There's a couple other good locations to keep in mind. There's kind of a small rundown village here that has a little bit of loot, but nothing super fantastic. The better section is this new, really more upkept town. Has a good quality of buildings inside, huge amount of food spawns in here, good barter items as well. This is also actually a pretty consistent PMC kind of cross section, and a lot of times you're going to get players that are moving towards this bridge car extract. 3k rubles, very similar to customs, where you just have to bring the money with you. It takes a minute to extract from this, but but is a really good extract, usable from any spawn, and always open until it's taken, which is really good to know. Again, be mindful of this area because, again, a lot of players are going to filter through here. Really good extract. The other major feature I want to talk about is obviously this river here. This is another good key indicator to kind of orient yourself. If you keep it obviously to your right-hand side and you move to the north, you'll know that you're kind of heading up towards this rundown village. There's a couple of good locations. The convoy you need, and these two areas right here is called the USEC camp. These are going to be some early game quest locations, probably some of the better loot in the map, but just please be very mindful. There's a large minefield here, so you have to approach these from the right direction. Come from the lakeside, and you're going to be in a pretty good spot. Come from not the lakeside, the opposite side, and you're probably walking through that minefield. I should really have talked about that. I know I'm jumping all over the place a little bit, but you see this section of mines. Mines basically create the barrier for this map now in what used to actually be a wall. So you have a couple of other extracts here. You have outskirts, again, near Scav house. That's going to be a very consistent extract for a lot of people, very close to ZB14. Don't wander too far into nothingness. The key here being that, again, this is all sectioned by mines. There are signs for these. They're relatively easy to miss if you're not familiar, and hopefully I can pop up something to give you a quick screenshot or some video to show you. But don't step into the minefield. They will screw you up pretty good, and it's pretty consistent, especially early wipe or as you get into woods that people accidentally run into these. I will tell you, if you do run into this minefield and step on one, the first best thing you can do is stop, heal yourself, do a complete 180, and just try to get out and exit. That's going to be for the best. I promise you that. So, what else do I want to talk about here? You have a couple of additional extracts. Again, Bridge Car is a really good one. You have UN Roadblock. Factory Gate is one of your Scav/PMC combination extracts to keep in mind. You have Roof as well, which is not always open, but is a good option. One other thing I'm going to talk about is I call it this little cop, this little fob, whatever you want to call it. This is a medical, basically tent area. This is a new addition for an old portion of the map that has some absolutely fantastic loot. A lot of meds, a lot of really good barter items, a ton of food. So as you can tell, I've been talking through this map overview. There's actually quite a bit of options as far as finding loot. It used to be where you had to run to the sawmill, and that's about all you could do. That was where the loot was. Now they've certainly added a lot of options, again, for some really, again, good barter items, good food spawns, and just good loot in general. Northern UN Roadblock is another one. This is another extract for you. There is kind of a small couple of buildings over here in kind of a depressed area. It's very easy to get some height around this. This has some good barter items in it as well. If you kind of spawn over here and have worked this little village and you're moving your way south, this is a good couple of stopping points to keep focused on. Let's talk general player movement as we jump into woods here. So as you can see, a lot of potential spawn locations really, again, around the outskirts of the map. What you're typically going to see is that most players, dependent on quests, dependent on what their goal for the map is, you're going to see a lot of players still filter their way and make their way around to the sawmill. What you're going to see is as you get these spawns over here, generally they're going to filter up. They're probably going to hit this camp. They may jump into ZB16. And they're going to move towards the sawmill or to a height position. It's very important to note that there are a lot of raised elevation locations. You can get up into this mountain. You can get up onto what's typically called spine here, which is a raised rock formation, or a very popular one called Dickhead Rock, which is right here, that have some really good sightlines down into the sawmill. The reason that this is happening, again, a lot of players are going to come here to be looking for Shturman. In addition to that, they know that a lot of players from really all sides of the map are going to filter in here. Now, the upper northern portion map spawns, while those players can certainly filter their way down, they certainly will most times take the time to at least loot some of these locations, whether it be this small village, this little village here, come down to the convoy. you're going to see, again, your major PMC interactions, USEC camp, right here in this village, sometimes this little fob, this little cop here, and then again, generally surrounding the sawmill up here near this mountain area, and really in this forested area as well, as players are both moving in to get to the sawmill as well as moving out to get the outskirts. Outskirts is a very, very popular extract, and you have so many spawn locations scattered throughout here. It's very easy, especially for players that are doing maybe Shturman farming. They're going to run in, they're going to try to find them, maybe get a kill, and then they're going to simply do a U-hook around this lake and try to get out from outskirts. So please keep that in mind. Again, this village will certainly get some interaction, especially players looking to take kind of the out-of-the-way extract, with it being the car. So let's also talk scav locations. There are a ton of quests that require scavs, so I think it's really important to spend some time talking about that. Your best locations, in my opinion, are going to be, there are a few. Scav House in the surrounding area here around ZB14 and this kind of low-lying area, some of these open fields along this road is going to be one of the first good locations that you're certainly going to find some scavs. They seem to spawn, I would say regularly. You're going to get a few that come to Scav House, typically maybe a little bit later into the raid, but you can certainly find some scavs early here as well. In addition, if you follow this road down as you make your way into Sawmill, there is a small roadblock here. It's kind of in the surrounding tree line here along this road is also going to be another good location for scavs. You're not going to get a ton, but 3 to 4 in here is usually pretty typical at some point throughout the raid. And that is a great location to find, especially as you kind of make your way either in or out of the map, kind of headed toward outskirts, especially if you spent some time in the map. Always kind of check around here. You should have some good success finding some. There certainly is going to be a couple of scavs that will populate this woods area. Obviously, the sawmill is going to be another good location, but if you're looking to avoid the PvP, I would tell you you're probably not going to find a ton of scavs here. A few at best, 2 to 3. If you're lucky, they certainly will populate up and down this road and kind of move through here. But this is pretty generally reserved for Shturman and the boys. Just please do keep that in mind. Another really good location, again, is going to be this kind of maintained village that we have up here. They will filter in down along the road. They will walk into kind of the fenced off house areas, so please keep that in mind. They will kind of hang out and even to a certain extent get sort of close to the bridge car extract, so keep that in mind. But this is usually good for a handful of scavs throughout the raid. Lastly, while I'm not a big fan of this village, it does seem to be pretty well populated both along, this is a dirt road here, as well as kind of in the village and along the back, almost even to the bank line of the river, where you can find a handful of scavs. So pretty good location if you're moving through. Let's say you get this extract and you're looking for scavs. You can do some looting up in here, hopefully kill 1 or 2, and then kind of make your way up this way and should be able to run into another handful, which is really good. I should note really quick as we talk about scavs, there are 2 marked areas on the map. One of them is in this rundown village. The other is here, just kind of offset from your little checkpoint here is going to be your other marked area. So do keep that in mind. Scavs seem to be pretty popular around here. So if you're looking for scavs, I would certainly tell you to kind of make your way to the northern portion of the map. You should have some pretty good success finding them. One consistent scav spawn is always going to be Scav Sniper. He's up on top of the rock here. You can also get some scavs in and around the baseline of this, at the bottom of the mountain, along and near Spine. I don't recommend typically being in this area, though. High traffic for PMCs as they make their way through the map. Folks trying to get some long-range kills are certainly going to be posted up in this area as well. So it's kind of a dangerous spot to be. I would highlight is going to actually be this little FOV, this little compound here. A lot of scavs in and around this area. They will kind of travel kind of up along this road and into this wooded area, not going all the way into your sawmill area. They will generally stop up kind of here, but this is generally a very good area to pick up some scavs. Last area I would highlight is actually over here by the old station and kind of around the ZB16 area. Not a ton of scavs, but you can certainly get some that roam here. I think with this recent update and map addition, and just some scav updates that they've done, I have not had as much difficulty finding scavs as I typically do. So a lot of good locations. Depending on your spawn, you can certainly find some pathing that should give you some good options. I will tell you it is hit or miss based on the spawns, though. So sometimes these areas seem to be pretty well populated. Sometimes they seem to be pretty barren. And it's also dependent on time and raid, too. But again, this northern portion, really these villages and along this side, if you really kind of generally just follow the river, you should have some pretty good success with finding a handful of scavs and working towards those quests. The last thing I want to cover really quick is to jump over here and just talk about stash locations. So there are 27 total stashes on this. Again, you can go to the wiki and pull this map up. Not going to spend a ton of time, but I would certainly say that Woods is also a map, if you get very familiar with these locations, that you can actually make yourself a pretty solid run for stashes. And if you don't know, stashes are great. Ton of potential loot opportunities that you can find, and just really good loot inside of those. So this can be a great thing to top up some runs, especially if you're moving through a few areas. I certainly personally need to get a little bit more familiar with these stash locations, but there are a ton that are viable and usable, and they fluctuate both between kind of that covered wood trap door and the smaller barrels. So please just do keep that in mind. But 27 total locations, and a really, really good opportunity for some solid loot. All right, let's spend some time talking about old Shturman. So I will tell you that this is probably one of the easier / harder bosses. It's very hard to describe Shturman. He is unarmored. He does have a lot of health. He is very quick to move. The thing that makes Shturman really deadly is the SVD. He is extremely accurate with this, will engage from extremely long ranges, and can be absolutely punishing. Now, it is important to note, one specific strategy is that the first time that you roll up on him, the first time that he sees you, he is not going to engage you. He's not going to shoot you right away. He's going to run. He very much is like Reshala, where he's going to move, he's going to find cover. After that initial movement, he is going to shoot you, and he is going to continue to shoot you, and he is going to continue to move pretty frequently. He will certainly get out of line of sight. He's going to keep his distance, not one to engage from close range in most instances. I've certainly been killed by him from close range, but that's not typical. Again, what I will say is he's looking for those long range shots, as you would imagine. In addition to him, he has two guards. The guards can come pretty well geared. Here's what you're going to find, and the difficulty you're going to find with all of these is that they run very high caliber weapons, SVDs, hunters, Mosins sometimes, and they can be absolutely devastating. The guards are extremely aggressive. Guards are extremely aggressive. As soon as they see you, they're going to engage, and they are going to make a push. They are certainly going to protect Shturman, and they are going to be the aggressors on the map. What I will tell you with some recent changes, and it used to be that you could basically run into the sawmill, you could literally kill Shturman without him firing around, drop the guards pretty quickly, and run out. They have spread out both where Shturman spawns as well as where the guards spawn. And that has made hunting him a little bit more of a challenge. Now, it is certainly still very viable to go in, and this can be a great boss to farm. 33% spawn chance, so you're going to get some consistency with that. But please do keep that in mind, that these guys are going to be pretty well spread out. And with the guards being spread out as well as being aggressive, it can be very easy to get mowed over by these guys and probably not even know it, especially if you're a little unfamiliar with the map or a little bit newer. Let's talk about their gear really quick. The real key for Shturman is there's two things that he's always going to have on him. One, he's always going to have his stash key. There's a small stash inside of the sawmill that can be unlocked with his stash key, which can have a large amount of items in it. It's one of the better loot areas in the game, but it's certainly a dice roll if you choose to use that key and open it up. That key itself also sells very well in the flea market, which is another reason that a lot of people are going to hunt him. In addition, there is a quest from Jaeger outside of killing him for his first quest. There is a quest from Jaeger to kill him 25 times and open up the Mark 18, which is a pretty fun gun to be able to use. So let's talk about Shturman and what he always has on him. He's always going to have his SVD, and he's always going to have an AK-105. The AK-105 is actually really great. Comes with some decent, I like the sight on it, at least some decent attachments. But in most cases, you're going to find Eagle Neck on it. It can certainly be loaded with BT and PS. I would say those are pretty rare. It's pretty common that he's going to have that Eagle Neck rounds on him, and very, very useful. His SVD is also going to be, pretty well equipped. It's pretty standard, but he does typically run PS rounds, and he runs 20-round mags. So you're going to be able to find yourself a good opportunity both to stockpile on some SVDs for some of your later round quests, where you have to get your SVD kills, in addition to just picking up some solid weapons and some really, really good ammo. The followers we'll talk about really quick. Again, they can have pretty large assortment of weapons. They themselves can have SVDs, typically running 10-rounders. Hunters are very common. SR-25s from time to time, Mosins as well. And then I would say more probably infrequently SKSs and the VSS. They will have a stack of grenades on them. They actually come pretty well armored as well. So I would say usually it's the 6B23 and the BNT1, but I've certainly found Redut and the Zook. I've never seen Zabrala armor on them, but I'm sure that is a possibility as well. They have some decent chest rigs. Shturman is always going to have a Scav backpack as well. So be sure to, one, search the pockets. Make sure you grab that stash key, and then make sure to search his backpack as well, as Shturman, as well as the guards, can have key cards and some other solid loot inside of their backpack. The last thing to highlight with Shturman is make sure to check his melee slot. He himself on his body can have Red Bull ice picks. I will tell you, last wipe when I was hunting him to get the 25, I ended up, I think, finding 3 out of that 25. I feel really, really lucky in that, but certainly if you spend some time hunting him and coming across him, you should find yourself some pretty good options and hopefully get lucky enough to find that Red Rebel ice pick, which is a great utility melee weapon, great utility for other maps and opening up some extracts, and certainly kind of an expensive item as well. So certainly one that's nice to sell on the flea market. So that is Shturman. Let's talk a little bit about location here. All right, so as far as a Shturman spawn locations, these have certainly moved, and I'm going to cover some of the more common ones, and I know there are probably a couple others that I will not. It used to be very typical that there is a set of wood piles right here, basically in between this kind of more closed off building location and the first really large red topped open barn location. He can spawn and had typically spawned very close to either next to these wood piles or right on the side of this building. There's a couple of set of wood here. He would basically sit in and kind of be nestled in here. He certainly can still spawn there, as well can the guards. So that is a good first location to look. I will tell you, though, that his spawn locations have certainly opened up. One of the newer locations is just off of Dickhead Rock, just kind of offset from this road. There are some big log piles. There's a big logging truck here, and generally in this area. And he can actually be set off kind of to the side in the grass, kind of in a little bit of low ground here, right by Dickhead. So it is important as you're moving through this area, especially if you're coming from the north, moving south, be sure to be giving not only Dickhead a scan, but kind of this low-lying area here, as well as these wood piles. If he does get triggered, he can run into and cover in these wood piles. He certainly will run down. He does typically like, once he starts moving, to get himself by these 2 cabins over here. There's some decent cover for him, and he likes to kind of hide underneath this kind of rock outcropping. So just do please keep that in mind. But that is a spawn location for him and pretty consistent. The other one that's pretty consistent is there's a raised rock right here outside of this forested area. And there's a really small little tent camp here with some decent food spawns. He can actually spawn very close to this as well. Again, it's a very similar thing. When he spawns, he crouches. So please do keep that in mind. He crouches, tries to get that low profile. So it can be sometimes hard to spot. I think this is an interesting spawn location that they've given him because a lot of players will kind of filter up this way and can just basically run right into him, which is really interesting. It also gives him really good line of sight for this raised outcropping and where players used to push in. I know when I was farming him, I would certainly love to just push in and check right here to see if he had spawned, and it gives him some decent line of sight to be able to engage those players as well. So those are some of the typical spawn locations that I would tell you to focus on. The guards I certainly have seen. I don't know if they roam, but they certainly have been up and down along this road area. They will move very consistently throughout this area as well. And then again, do favor this kind of closed building. They can stand kind of in the doorway here, as well as being around these wood piles that I spoke about Shturman being at as well. So great engagement opportunities if you kind of just take your time as you move in here. Certainly be checking again inside in the internal area, and then those two locations, both over here and over here, for him as well. Especially one of the biggest things and one of the biggest tips I can give you is just listen as you move through the map, especially if you're getting to Sawmill a little bit later. Shturman himself, as well as the guards, fire their SVDs and their weapons very, very quickly. So a couple of very quick SVD shots. It's very distinctive. You're going to be able to hear it as a great indicator if players are engaging or getting into fights or have been seen by Shturman. And if you're hunting him, that's a great indicator that you need to move that way and go on the hunt. Again, be very mindful as you fight him. Certainly take your cover. If he sees you and spots you and starts to run, that's a great opportunity to try to engage. If he's hunkered down somewhere and covering, you're going to be in a little bit more of a difficult chance to try to get him. Certainly try to take a different angle. Don't peek the same angle twice because he will absolutely tear you up. Try to find a different location, get to a different spot, and engage. Range is never a bad thing when it comes to fighting Shturman. I will also tell you, if you have a close range weapon, something like a MP5, MP7, your vectors, they can absolutely tear up Shturman, especially if you get the drop on him from one of his spawn locations. So both tactics are good. Just be very mindful that the guards, very, very aggressive, will push very, very hard. So keep that in mind. All right, let's talk about some keys. The beautiful part about Woods, and one thing that I think makes it a very accessible map, certainly to finding some loot and having some good success on it, is that there are not a lot of keys that you need to worry about. ZB14, focus right here, is really the only one that I would say you absolutely need to find, in large part for two reasons. First reason being, it's an extract. Great utility key to have. There's some really good loot inside of the ZB14 bunker. In addition to that, the second reason that you want to find this key is there is a quest from Prapor called Ice Cream Cones, which requires you to found in raid 60 round AK mags. Now these can certainly be farmed in labs. They can be farmed by raiders on reserve, and a couple of other locations. They can spawn in weapon crates. But it is relatively consistent, although not as much as I think it used to be, for them to also spawn in ZB14 behind the locked cage, basically where you extract. Found both on the ground, as well as there's a couple of weapon crates inside of that. ZB14, again, is that one utility key that if I'm going to Woods, I am always taking this key. Again, from the ability to use it as an extract, top up on some loot, is just a really good option to have. If you're looking and you don't have this key and you're level 20, it typically is not super, super expensive, so it's a great key to buy. I would say it also seems to be a relatively common key spawn, so if you do some jacket farming, you should have pretty good luck finding it, hopefully, at some point. The Shturman stash key is really the only other key that you need to be concerned about, and only really for a couple of reasons. There is one quest related to the Shturman stash key, which is going to be for Jaeger. You have to turn this in addition to killing Shturman. This is one of those things where if you get the opportunity and you can kill him, certainly pocket this key, and hopefully you can get it out with a found in raid status. You don't have to do that, so let's say you kill him before you have the quest open and you grab the key and you get it out. They don't have to both be done in the same raid, so you can hang on to the key with the found in raid status until you get that quest opened up, and then you can go back in, hunt him, kill him, turn the key in, and you're in good business. The other reason that the Shturman stash key is viable is it is a single-use key, but as I spoke, there is a small stash basically right in the center of the sawmill that can spawn some really, really great items. Weapons, NVGs, barter items can have a red rebel inside of it. Ammo. It has a huge loot pool that is really beneficial to opening up. The key itself also sells very, very well on the flea market for those that are willing to kind of take the gamble, I would say, of actually opening the stash. So it's up to you what you want to do with it. Certainly a great key to grab always off of Shturman. If you, in my opinion, this is just simply my opinion, if you get this key out and it has a found in rate status and you've completed the quest, I would strongly recommend probably selling it. If you end up dying at some point with the key after killing Shturman, open the stash, take a look, see if you get lucky. If you feel like rolling the dice on it, you certainly can. I think the overall value of the key is probably more beneficial in the long run to sell them. But certainly if you open it up and you get a red rebel out of it, you're going to make way, way more money off of that if you're able to get out of raid and sell that. So really the only two keys that you have to worry about, which is really nice. Again, ZB14 is really the only one that you have to kind of search for. And then just fight Shturman, and he always has a key on him. So make sure to pull that out. And hopefully you get a key card or something else awesome from him in addition. All right, so the last thing I want to just cover very quickly and just do an overview on is quests. There are 26 quests that are going to require you to go to woods specifically, either in full or in part for quest completion. I will tell you that the majority of these quests do fall under Jaeger. Jaeger just generally seems to be the map that he's assigned to. But I will tell you that pretty much every trader gets a little bit of love for woods. Some a little bit more than others. Purport has a few more. Therapist only has, I think, one or two. But every trader gets a little bit of love on woods, which is pretty interesting. Why I highlight that is as you're going through your Escape from Tarkov journey, there's certainly going to be early game quests that you're going to need to focus on and complete. But you can also certainly find yourself good opportunities to get multiple quests open up for woods and complete multiple things at the same time. Specifically when it comes to stashing items, there's a lot of items that need to be stashed. There's a lot of items that also need to be marked, both the marked circles and a few other things, both for Jaeger and some other traders. So certainly keep that in the back of your mind as you move through. You can certainly look to stockpile some quests for woods and get some progress, both from killing scavs in addition to trying to, again, mark some of those locations or find some of those locations. So please do keep that in mind. While there are 26 specific quests on woods, again, that require you to go to the map, there are also a lot that are just going to be relatively easier completed on woods in addition to that. So Shooter Born in Heaven is obviously a portion for woods. What you're going to find is a lot of the quests for Jaeger are much more easily completed, specific when it comes to distance shots with bolt-action rifles, whether that be close or longer range distance shots. Woods seems to just be generally a good option for that with good sight lines. You can find some elevated positions when it comes to being able to get those scav kills. Woods is going to be a good option for that. So you're going to spend quite a bit of time in woods as you look to complete your quests, get your rep up with those respective traders. And again, just generally seems to be a good map where you can stockpile some quests and get some progress done with hopefully fewer raids. So that's what we've got for quests. All right, so hopefully this map guide for woods was helpful. Certainly wanted to cover a lot of information with the overview. I know we jumped around a lot, but hopefully it gives you a good just overview of the map, where to go, points of interest. I'm going to say this. If you are struggling with finding your bearings and just getting your bearings on woods, please do not feel like you are the only one. Woods, again, because of just how it is created, there's certainly really good points of interest and markers, land markers that you can get to, find and use to get your bearings. But it also is a map that is very easy to get lost on. So spend some time on it. Certainly pull that map up. Escape from Tarkov Wiki is a great resource. Pull that map up. Use it to your advantage, and as you play the map, I think you'll get much more comfortable with moving around, as well as just being able to identify. The last thing I'll highlight from just a navigation standpoint is one of the few maps I would certainly recommend to actually use the compass on is woods. The compass, I think, can be very beneficial, especially as you get to understand where some of those landmarks are. You get that compass, and you're going to get it from a quest pretty early on as you complete those. Pop that thing open first you get into the map, and it should help you to at least get a little bit better of a bearings, especially if you get some spawns or a spawn that you're not as familiar with. So I will wrap up to say this. We look forward to doing more of these. Again, welcome any comments down below. Hopefully this is helpful. I'm going to put the plug in here as well. Like, comment, subscribe if it was. Again, I would love to hear in the comments what else you want to see, what else you'd like to know. Want to try to, again, keep these relatively short, make them a good resource for you. But there's a lot to cover in these, and I certainly would like to spend some more time on quests, but hopefully a quick quest overview was beneficial. In addition, we do stream over on Twitch. That link is in the description: Twitter, Twitch, and Discord. We stream Fridays to Saturdays, 8:30 Eastern Standard Time. So we'd love to have you hang out on a raid. We certainly love to do some raids and just have a good time. Enjoy some Tarkov as well as some other games. In addition to that, our Discord community, feel free to give us a follow over there. Chat, ask questions, talk to us, and hopefully meet some players as we build up our community that also like to play some Tarkov. With that, we'll close it out. I'm Doc, Average Gamer, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll catch you in the next Teaching Tarkov video. Peace.